So I've just come off a really productive meeting with some of the leading figures at Redditch Borough Council. Obviously I can't go and meet with them face to face because of the lockdown restrictions, but I was able to have a really extensive conversation with them using Zoom as our desired platform. What I needed to do today was just educate Redditch Borough Council about our current plans over the border at Wychavon and also about what Heart of England Wildlife Park is and what it's potentially going to look like. Redditch Borough Council have potentially earmarked a site which we may be able to use within Redditch, and that we're currently discussing whether it be possible to relocate our plans to that site. But during today's meeting, I actually showed them the plans we have for the initial site in Holborough Green and very much tried to educate them about what our vision is for Heart of England Wildlife Park. They were incredibly excited by the plans, and I think they were intrigued by the fact that we're not trying to build a concrete jungle. We're trying to create a natural environment for our animals which closely resembles similar zoological collections at Cotswold Wildlife Park in Burford and Yorkshire Wildlife Park just outside Doncaster. We're not trying to create artificial mountains or huge glass domes. What we're going to be doing is actually creating very naturalistic paddocks for our animals. And what we've done is shown the council today some of our initial plans for some of the animal houses, including our zebra house, and how that would fit into the natural landscape. We also showed the council our vision board, and apologies for not having any colour ink left in my printer. And obviously everyone's trying to order home office supplies, there's a slight delay. But what you can see here in this image is a really large open space for the zebra at another zoological collection. And what you can see here is very much what we're trying to achieve in Worcestershire as we develop Heart of England Wildlife Park. So really big, much bigger than industry standard enclosures for our animals with natural groups of animals which would naturally occur together in the wild, like zebra and ostrich, maybe even common eland. And what we're going to do is, through creative landscaping and the construction of things like ha-has, dry moats, standoff barriers and no man's land, is create a really impressive vista which fully immerses guests in the animal's environment and makes them feel like they're walking through the African savannah or they're immersed in the Congolese jungle and the rainforest. I think Redditch Borough Council were really impressed with everything we had to say about the development, and they're very keen to meet us in person when the lockdown restrictions are over. They've given us some general advice on where we may be able to locate this site within Redditch Borough Council's jurisdiction. So what I'm going to do over the next few days is I'm going to safely travel to the site, take my dog for a walk during my daily exercise, which is currently allowed, and have a look around the site which is being proposed, and then come back and work with my architects and planning team to see if we can actually reconfigure our designs to the proposed site in Redditch. And then we can potentially work with Redditch Borough Council on getting all the pre-planning application advice required to make the Heart of England Wildlife Park a real reality right in the centre, in the heart of Redditch. So I'm here on the site which has been proposed by Redditch Borough Council, and it is absolutely beautiful. As a local Redditch resident, I already know this site quite well, and it really is incredibly tranquil. I'm literally the only visitor to this site at the present time because everybody else is currently in their homes as instructed by central government. I'm currently here on my daily exercise. I've been for a nice walk around the proposed red line, and I've been able to see the habitats which are already here for some wildlife which we would need to safeguard if we're going to build on this site. As I've already communicated to Redditch Borough Council, we're not here to build a concrete jungle. We're very much about open grass paddocks, and we're very keen to safeguard the species which are already making fantastic use of this site. Now, if we were going to actually go forward with development here at this location, we would need to do all of that basic groundwork we've already done for the Wychavon site. We need to commission an ecological appraisal, and we need to get an initial habitat impact assessment completed excited to see what sort of species are already on this area. Since being here, I've already seen buzzards, which are absolutely fantastic, and I'm guessing just by looking around, there are going to be things like grass snakes. There's also going to be newts in some of the ponds that are on this site. Now, in addition to the ecological considerations with this site, it's also of relatively significant archaeological importance. There is a really significant historical site relatively close to this location, so I am going to have to go away and speak to the conservation officers at Redditch Borough Council. It's also likely that I'm going to need to commission a Historic England record check and look through all of that with an accredited archaeologist, and then what I'm going to need to do is that we're going to need to probably contact Historic England and discuss with them whether it's actually viable to develop a wildlife park on this site. To be honest, just being on the site right now, walking around the red line, looking at the map, I think it would be a perfect site for a wildlife park. There's already fantastic infrastructure servicing this area. There's a really good road network with an over provision of dual carriageway. There's already really good car parking access in this area, and also it's relatively close to hotels, petrol stations, shops. And really what would happen is by developing the wildlife park here, it would become the hub for Redditch. It would be the catalyst for economic growth and economic opportunities in a post-lockdown economy, whenever that might happen. So I genuinely believe that by developing Heart of England Wildlife Park in this site in Redditch, we could actually see increased job opportunities, economic growth, huge multiplier effects. And that's going to be really important, because if you listen to what the Bank of England have been saying on the news over the last few nights, we could even see growth go as low as -25%, the biggest capitulation of GDP in living memory in history. So having infrastructure development, having tourist and leisure development like Heart of England Wildlife Park in Redditch is going to be really important for getting the economy moving again, safeguarding jobs, revitalising leisure, tourism, restaurants, hotels in the local area. And most importantly, I think this site would be the perfect location for our animals. I can see the zebras, I can see the ostrich on the fields, I can see the ring-tailed lemurs. We're going to create a fantastic haven for these endangered species and work with zoos around Europe to make sure we safeguard their species from extinction here in the heart of England, here in Redditch. So I'm not long back from the Redditch site, which has been proposed by Redditch Borough Council, and I've immediately come home and done a bit of number crunching, re-evaluating and appraising all of the facts and figures. The perimeter fence line proposed at the site in the centre of Redditch is much greater than the one at Wychavon due to the increased acreage at this proposed site in the heart of Redditch. So what I need to do is update our proposed cash flow forecast and our business plans to make them specific to site 2.0 in Redditch. What I've done is looked at the extra cost of perimeter fencing, but also I'm making financial considerations for improving access, especially for disabled people, to actually come to the site in Redditch, because at the moment there are a couple of difficulties with that site, nothing which can't be ironed out, but it's much more important to get those into our planning at this stage than to forget about them and re-encounter them later down the line. So what I'm going to do to discuss the funding options available to Heart of England Wildlife Park is I'm going to meet with one of the zoo industry's leading financial consultants in the next couple of days and talk about the different funding options available to our enterprise to get it up and running and off the ground. I've also managed to speak with a few people in commercial banks about additional funding options, and I've also managed to speak with the estate agent. Word on the ground is that I will be able to get my house sold in the next couple of weeks. The rumour mill is saying that as soon as lockdown ends, which we're hoping will be pretty soon, the estate agent will be able to come round and take pictures of my house in a safe manner, allowing me to get the equity released from the house to reinvest it into the development of Heart of England Wildlife Park. One of the great things that has happened since having a dialogue with Rachel McLean and Redditch Borough Council about our proposals for Heart of England Wildlife Park is that it's actually forced Wychavon Council to accelerate the dialogue we've had about the original proposals for the site in Holbarrow Green. So I've recently spoken with Holly Jones, who's the Head of Planning and Development for Wychavon and Malvern Council, about our plans, and she was incredibly excited and incredibly supportive, guiding us through our pre-planning application and also having a conversation about how the wildlife park fits in with the plans which Wychavon Council have as part of the South Worcestershire Development Plan. Obviously, one of the huge benefits for the council of allowing Heart of England Wildlife Park to set up in Wychavon would be the creation of employment opportunities in a rural area, and that's a significant part of the sub-regional development plan. We've also spoken to Wychavon about alternative sites which may be available within their jurisdiction, just in case we can't get over the line either at the original site in Holborough Green, site 2.0 within Redditch Borough Council's jurisdiction, and Holly and her property team are now looking at a few other options for us, just in case they can offer us a place within Wychavon to create the wildlife park. The great thing for us as a business is that we have options when it comes to the site. So we're looking at all the possible different things we could do, the possible routes to success, and we're then going to have a conversation in the near future about which sites to proceed with. So we've recently heard about the easing of lockdown restrictions, and what we've seen is the reopening of the property market, and estate agents are now able to visit homes and get properties on the market again. So naturally, as intended, we've got the property agent out to value the house, and in addition, we've actually sold it. Within 24 hours of putting the property on the market, we had an appointment booked through Purple Bricks. The buyers have actually come out to the house. They've made a full offer at the pre-lockdown valuation, and it's all systems go. It's now onto the arduous task of the solicitor's paperwork. We're in a good position, and it's great news all round. So I've recently spoken with one of the leading financial consultants to the zoo industry about our proposals for Heart of England Wildlife Park. It was really pleasing to hear that John really bought into our brand and vision. He did comment upon the significance of the brand and how we were able to exploit everything that the Heart of England really has to offer our guests. He was pleased to hear that we had focus on research and also on the agricultural and historic elements of the Heart of England, and not just on the zoological side, and that we really can be an attraction which signposts a great day out for this area of the world. Now, while speaking with John, we discussed all of the funding options available to the zoo, and we discussed the conversations we'd had already with the commercial banks, and we also spoke a little bit about our crowdfunder initiative, which we're hoping to launch. John rightly pointed out that if we're going to make our crowdfunder a success, we really need to offer something unique. There are so many crowdfunders out there which offer generic t-shirts or branded bags for life, but to really get the community on board, we need to create something different. So we basically worked with an idea which we were calling Zoo Angels during our conversation, whereby people could actually pledge to the crowdfunder and buy into an online community of enthusiasts, animal lovers, the local community, who all want to have a significant input into the development of Heart of England Wildlife Park here in Redditch. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a membership scheme where for just £35 a year, people can sign up and vote on the key decisions, the management decisions at the park, such as which animals we display, how we design our enclosures, which animals go on the front of the guidebook, and people will also be able to vote on the conservation projects which we support out in the wild to create a more sustainable future for wildlife. I came out of the conversation with John feeling incredibly enthusiastic and passionate about this idea. And what we're going to do is I'm going to ring up my brother, who's going to give me some marketing advice from his career in marketing today, and talk to me about how possible it would be to build an online community who can have a real input and say into the development of the zoo, and think about how we can capture their input and their votes to actually create a world-leading 21st century zoological collection. Following on from the continuation of our brainstorming activities with our marketing department, we've moved away from that working title of Zoo Angels, and we've decided to release 3 brand new membership packages for our crowdfunder supporters to be a part of. The most popular membership tier will be the opportunity to join our pack, and in return for a one-off pledge of just £35, our supporters will be able to vote on key decisions affecting the running of Heart of England Wildlife Park. I've just seen the first test from our marketing department, and you'll be able to vote on key decisions such as whether we exhibit lions or cheetah, and you'll even be able to vote on what goes on the very first front cover of our guidebook. Will it be our gorgeous Red River hog, or will it be our Grevy zebra? It's really going to be up to you, the animal enthusiasts, the zoo enthusiasts, the Redditch community, the British public, and even further afield, to vote on our future and to help us build a more sustainable future for wildlife. So now that lockdown restrictions have been eased, I can finally go out and get a haircut. But in all seriousness, I can actually go out to the site, meet with our planning team, following Boris Johnson's announcement, and really begin to propel the development of Heart of England Wildlife Park towards the full planning stage. I can also go out and meet with key stakeholders rather than having to do it over Zoom, and this will really help us in building our case to present to the local council.